Every Sunday we have an opportunity to take stock of the Word of God and relate it to our lives in the here and the now. And this Sunday the readings are very interesting. In the first reading from the Book of Wisdom, we hear how people who speak the truth are rejected. So they are plotting against prophets. And they say, "Let us beset the just one, for he is obnoxious to us." That sounds like the words used by Athenians and graduates of Assumption and Saint Scholastica. But Don Bosco hindi marunong mag-English, kaya hindi nila ginagamit yan. Let us beset the just one, for he is obnoxious to us. They plot against the righteous man, because the righteous man teaches rightly and is rejected. That's the first reading. In the second reading, James tells us about a word about jealousy and selfish ambition. And according to him, these twin evils are the source of disorder and every foul practice. When we are unjustly jealous of neighbor, and those naangasan tayo, nauungasan tayo, nauunahan, nalalamangan sa ating paningin, then we become envious, jealous. And if you couple that with selfish ambition, masyadong matayog na paghahangad, then according to James, this is the source of disorder and foul practice. But then he talks about wisdom, the very same thing that the first reading speaks of. Wisdom that is pure, he says, peaceable, gentle, compliant, and bears good fruit. In the third, we are told about an argument of the disciples. They were arguing about something that has to do with their kingly office. They want power, they want privilege, they want position. And so the big question was, sino ba ang pinakadakila sa ating lahat? This is the temptation of all of us who hold power. When we have power, we think we owe it to ourselves and God owes it to us. And we complain about being up there on the cross, but once we have power, we don't want to come down from the cross. And the disciples were no exemptions. They were arguing who is the greatest among themselves, who is the favorite of the master, who is the right hand, and who deserves to sit at the right hand of the master, Jesus Christ. And then the Lord tells us, he took a child, sat him at their side, and then told them, who's the greatest? He who wants to be first, be the last, and be the servant of all, using the child as an example. So my question for us today and for me is, what do we get from all three readings? Number one, from the first reading, the truth according to the Lord is liberating, but first it will make you miserable. When I talk about respect for the Mass and not bring dogs, some people get angry. When I don't talk about proper decorum at Mass, then some people get angry because I don't talk about the right things. When I talk about the corruption in our society, some people get offended because I'm talking politics. And yet morality is part and parcel of the gospel of liberating truth. And proper decorum and behavior at Mass is part and parcel of our role as priests, prophets, and kings. But there are people who want to emphasize the cultic element of our being priests like Christ. And so they focus on the proper decorum, and that's all they do, say Mass with the splendor of the Roman Catholic liturgy, which I value. I value that. I love Latin Masses. I cannot celebrate it here because some of you will feel offended and others will not like it. So there are people who focus on the splendor of the liturgy. I had a student many decades ago who became a top police officer. And in our group chat, I was complaining about so much corruption in the Philippine National Police. And he answered me with a very pithy statement. Father, you're a priest. You know that the solution is to pray. Hello, I pray 8 rosaries a day, but unless you change your ways, those 8 rosaries will mean nothing. You've got to walk your talk. You've got not to be pietistic. People who focus on the liturgy alone, they're guilty of pietism. If I focus on social issues alone, then I'm guilty of social activism. But the Christian gospel is both and. It's all of it. It's about being priest like Christ. It's about being a prophet like Christ. It's about being kingly and doing pastoral leadership like Christ. It's all part of the gospel culture. If I focus only on what is right worship, that's orthodoxy. But if I don't focus about right behavior, the duty that we have to control the climate change each in our own little way, then I'm guilty only of orthodoxy and no orthopraxis. Then I am pietistic or social activist. But the gospel is full of it. It's both and. It's all of it. It's all about doing rightly, doing the right things, and worshiping God in the right way. So, number 1, the truth is liberating, yes, but first it will make you miserable. Number 2 lesson for me and for you, naked ambition. Unfortunately, modern psychology reduces them to mere harmless sounding negative emotions. No, ambition is not an emotion. It's a sinful desire. It's not just a negative emotion. Anger might be a negative emotion. But when you throw plates and kill somebody because you're angry, then that is sinful. That is sinful anger. It's not just a negative emotion. James talks about jealousy and ambition. And jealousy and ambition that reside in the heart are the canon fodder for disorder and every foul practice. And James tells us that the only antidote is wisdom from above, the wisdom that the first reading talks about. Number 3 lesson, and this is most important. In the gospel, we're told about the good news of reversals. And what do I mean? Gospel good news is subversive. It subverts reality. Greatness doesn't reside on people with power. Greatness is not the monopoly of people with position and privilege. It doesn't come from wealth. It does not come from the powers that you wield. The gospel tells us the original inverter. The gospel inverts reality. Who is the greatest among you? Come here, little child. Sit beside me. And the Lord told him, if you don't become like this little child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. The gospel of reversals, which means to say that you don't have to be governor or mayor to do the right thing. You can do the right thing now. First, by not bringing your dogs inside the church during Mass. And I know I'm offending some of you. You can do the right thing now, which means you help the country reduce the corruption, because it's all over the place, from top to bottom, from the leaders now and the leaders then and the leaders in the middle portion and the leaders down below, all the way up to our level where we are. We are called to do, therefore, and this is now the lesson for us all. We are all called to do a world of reversals. Think about a small child. A small child is helpless. A small child is needy of care all the time. But a small child reigns supreme in a household. When the child cries, the mother gets up, not the father. The mother gets up in the middle of the night, magtitimpla ng gatas. Pagka umiyak ang bata, sino nagpapalit ng lampen? Yung nanay. Pagka nadapa yung bata, sinong nag-aalaga? The child is helpless, yes, and needy of care, but he is reigning supreme in a household. Nowadays, our problem is we lack childlikeness, but we have a lot of childish people. And lack of childish people are people with so much self-entitlement. And this so much entitlement is found in our language, dismissive language, the cancel culture. Bala kayo dyan, manigas ka. Yan naman nababasa natin sa social media. Toxic kayong mga thunders at mga boomers. So, bida ang bagets. Sapagkat mas marami silang weapon sa social media at mas maraming followers sa social media. TikTok is populated by, not me, I have a TikTok account, yes, but I don't know how to do all those dancing and acting, and that's the province of your grandchildren who are not here. By the way, mass attendance since 2019 has been going down by 1% every year, which means to say that if 10-15 years ago, about a big percentage of us were still coming to Mass, we're down to very little now. And that's why I congratulate you for being here, despite the fact that some of you might not want what they hear from me, but you are at Mass. We have a lot of self-entitled spoiled brats, bratinellos and bratinellas, and I'm not referring to that person, so don't feel offended. The bratinellos, bratinelli in Italian, and the bratinelle, okay, men and women, that can be you and me. When we behave like spoiled brats because I deserve this, because I'm entitled to this. And right now, there are those who are on the side of pietism. They just want the splendor of the liturgy, but they have nothing to do with corruption. They will have nothing to do with climate change. That's the work of the devil. They just think that all problems can be solved by just praying the rosary and saying Mass. No, you'll have to do your part. And that is, if you only do your part and go to rallies every day, and I call you every day to rallies, I'm a social activist, which I am not. I am a preacher, I'm a priest, I'm a prophet, I'm a king, in participation of the high priesthood of Christ. I don't deserve it, I am not worthy of it, but this is my job. Christ as priest, yes, we worry about the cult and the rightness of Christian worship. Christ as prophet, we need to preach the truth. We need to preach social responsibility. Christ as king, we need to lead others so that they may find the right way towards becoming a better version of themselves. Therefore, bottom line, it is not power, it is not title, it is not position, it is not your age, it is not your bank account, it is not your privilege. No, none of these makes you a great person. What makes you great is your service. You're being a servant. You're doing it despite the fact that you are rejected. Let us beset the just one, for he is obnoxious to us. I don't usually suggest watching movies because I seldom watch movies, but time and again there are good movies that are worth mentioning. Lolo and the Kid. I'm a crybaby, so I cried a bucket of tears last night while watching this. Lolo and the Kid, Gramps and the Kid, they reigned for a while. They were partners in crime, partners in life forever, duping people, fooling people, and stealing from them. Until Grandpa, Lolo, saw the goodness and the power of a child to become the best version of himself when he saw goodness from a couple who just lost their only son to cancer. And he changed his ways. And he left his beloved, yung pinulot niya sa basurahang bata na pinalaki niya, si Kid na kanyang partner for life. It was a moving scene when the child was crying, "Don't leave me, huwag niyo pong iwan, lolo, huwag niyo akong iwan." But the grandpa did the right thing, left him because he knew he had no future with him. And he had a bright future in a loving couple who just lost their son. He saw the potential in the child to become the best version of himself. They were partners for life, yes, but they did the right thing. Watch the movie and learn and cry like me. I did, and I still shed a few tears when I think about it. Our country is worth crying for, and I cry for our country ever since 1986. I thought there was no way but up. When I was born 10 years after the war, 11 years after the war, everything was hopeful, everything was upward moving. There was no way but up. But look at us. To be pietist, okay, pray your rosary. I pray 8 rosaries a day. I just finished my 7th before I came here. But I know that I need to do more than just pray the rosary. I need to do my part. And doing my part means doing the right thing and doing them rightly. And be like the lolo and the kid for once.